Just when you thought things couldn't get worse for Alpine, something unbelievable got announced from within the French camp this week. And this is something that could change the future for the French team. And perhaps it's also news no one was ever expecting to become reality. So what could it be? Well, it has been revealed that Alpine is seriously considering discontinuing its works Renault engine in Formula 1 in 2026 and has begun discussions with rival manufacturers about the prospect of gaining a customer arrangement instead. As part of an examination of its F1 project spurred by a poor start to the current campaign, top Renault and Alpine management have gone to great lengths to determine what is required to better its situation. With its present Renault power unit underperforming rivals and no guarantee it will get things right for the next generation turbo hybrids due in 2026, it has questioned if the massive expenditure required to manufacture its own engine is necessary. It is thought that a strategy is currently being considered for Renault to stop development on its 2026 power unit and instead outsource Alpine to a customer team. According to sources, Alpine team principal Bruno Famin has been considering the issue in recent weeks and has spoken with rival manufacturers to determine what other possibilities exist. Renault's most reasonable way to avoid a future manufacturer war would be to source customer engines from Red Bull, which will have its own power units beginning in 2026. Despite discussions with the team, it is believed that a Red Bull contract is improbable due to the logistical challenges that the Milton Keynes-based team would have in supplying a third team alongside itself and sister squad RB for its first season in 2026. Speaking last year about the possibility of a customer deal, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner said, "I think we need to establish ourselves first. We don't want to overstretch ourselves. I think already supplying 2 teams in 26, that is probably even slightly beyond optimum in year 1, but it just gives us the capacity and capability for further down the line. So I think first of all, we need to firmly establish ourselves, and then we have the capability to take more on from there." If the Red Bull route is not pursued, Mercedes is the most likely alternative, given it now has a supply arrangement available for 2026 as a result of Aston Martin's switch to Honda. Customer relationships with Aston Martin and McLaren have already demonstrated that the German carmaker is not scared to offer power units to other car firms, since it sees no long-term business risk to its F1 deals. If Alpine decides to pursue the customer engine way and is unable to negotiate an arrangement with another manufacturer, F1's regulations state that one of the sport's current engine suppliers will be called upon to provide it so that it does not go without a power unit. Honda is the only current manufacturer without plans for a second customer team in 2026, hence it is likely that it will be asked to provide an engine. While Alpine's engine status is fluid at the moment, Renault CEO Luca De Meo recently stated that he remains dedicated to Alpine's future in F1, despite interest from possible bidders. Speaking about selling the team, he said, "It's not my style. We will not sell even a part of this thing. We don't need the money. I've had people making offers left and right, then talking in the press about it. But we're not interested. It would be stupid, and I won't do it." In the lengthy interview, he did mention, however, that Renault had never effectively mastered the turbo hybrid engine restrictions, which had cost it performance during the current regulatory cycle. "When we began the hybrid era in 2014, our engine didn't perform," he stated. "We had been world champions with Red Bull, but with hybrid, things went wrong. Even the engine we developed in 2021 had a 0.2s to 0.5s disadvantage every lap. And this year we've screwed up with the car. If you combine everything, we're up to 1.5s from where we need to be." Aside from the engine switch, which would allow Alpine to secure cheaper and potentially more competitive power units, becoming a customer team would also make the team potentially easier to sell in the future, because the squad would no longer have the legacy element of its Viry-Châtillon engine department involved in its F1 effort. Since the 1970s, Renault Sport Racing's F1 engines have been designed and manufactured at its headquarters in Viry, near Paris. And, while a departure from Grand Prix racing would represent a significant shift in its concentration, there are several other motorsport activities in which it might be involved. However, for Formula 1, it would be a huge disappointment if Renault discontinued supplying engines in 2026. With the upcoming entrance of Audi and Red Bull powertrains forward, the number of suppliers will increase to 6. Renault is currently joined by Mercedes, Ferrari and Honda. That number is expected to be lowered to 5, with half of the teams in 2026 being consumers. F1 would have to wait until 2028, with the potential entry of General Motors if Andretti makes it onto the grid, for the number of suppliers to expand. For the time being, Alpine's future in Formula One is certain. If Renault decides to cancel the engine project, there are contenders willing to step in and supply from 2026. Honda and Audi are two of the leading candidates, as each will provide just one team in 2026. Aston Martin will be powered by the Japanese manufacturer from that year, while Audi becomes a works team after acquiring Sauber. However, the Audi initiative will be fresh, and it is uncertain that it will want to form a customer team right once. Ferrari and Red Bull powertrains are also available. However, the likelihood of an agreement with the latter is also minimal. Like Audi, the initiative will be new, with the manufacturer delivering units to Red Bull and RB. With Sauber's departure from F1, Ferrari would lose a client team, which might make Alpine an excellent contender, given the Italian company has already said that it is happy to cooperate with 3 teams. The Scuderia also provides Haas. Mercedes would also be involved because engine suppliers may only offer an engine to a maximum of 3 teams. Currently, it provides McLaren, Williams, and Aston Martin. However, the latter is switching to Honda in 2026, leaving the door open for Alpine to fill the gap. However, permission from the FIA is necessary. One question for the future is under what name the squad will remain. Will it continue to be known as Alpine, a sports car brand, despite racing with an engine from another automaker? For the time being, all alternatives remain open. Despite conversations with alternative engine suppliers, Alpine aims to find a solution internally. This might be accomplished by partially selling the F1 engine division to a buyer or partner. In the next weeks, the French team will have to make an important choice about its future. And if the engine struggles aren't enough of a problem, Alpine is also juggling a car that is too heavy between 2 drivers that are having the worst fight in the history of Alpine Renault. And to make it worse, development is behind, and this leaves Alpine to continue rotating their heavier chassis, despite being a couple of kilos overweight in Canada. Gasly and Ocon both earned points in Montreal, despite some concerns over a late position switch. However, the fact that both drivers finished in the top 10 was a positive outcome for Alpine following Ocon's dismal qualifying performance. Ocon finished 18th in the first stage of qualifying, missing out on Q2 by a 10.5 compared to Alpine teammate Pierre Gasly. In addition to coping with traffic, Ocon said that some of his gap to Gasly stemmed from driving a heavier chassis than his teammate since Miami. "It's been a couple of events that my car is quite a lot heavier than Pierre's," Ocon stated. "We will rotate fairly in the year, that is very clear. But since Miami, that is the case. When all these things add up, it makes it difficult to go through Q1. As Alpine works to come closer to the minimum weight restriction, it is estimated that the difference between the 2 cars is roughly 3 kilograms, which equates to little under 1/10 every lap as a general rule of thumb. Ocon began the season on Alpine's lighter chassis before being swapped to Gasly, and it is believed that both drivers would swap chassis again later on to keep things fair. "He was lighter at the start of the year, and then obviously we swapped parts, so I'm 1 kilo lighter or something like that. It's still very close," Gasly said. Earlier this month, it was reported that Ocon will leave the team at the conclusion of the season, following criticism in Monaco for establishing contact with Gasly. However, with Alpine still in a close struggle with Haas, Williams and Sauber for 7th place in the Constructors' title, team president Bruno Famin stated that it is in everyone's best interests to finish its association with Ocon in the best possible way during the next 15 races. "I think Esteban can count on all the team to help him to get the best result, because Esteban having the best result is helping the team having the best possible result," Famin said. "We count on Esteban to bring everything he can bring to the team. We will not put him aside at all. He will have exactly the same condition as Pierre. They are on the same level, same status. We know they are very close in terms of the performance, and it won't be good to do something different for anybody. Again, it's team interest, Alpine interest first." But is it really Alpine first? Or are they just looking for an easy way out, trying to find a new engine manufacturer and rotating chassis so they don't escalate the internal fight? What do you think? Will Alpine be able to return to a midfield spot again in upcoming years? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.